That's a real smart question to ask. The question has been, what is the wise thing to do? Or better yet, what is the wise thing for me to do? And we talked about it in 3 dimensions. We talked about it in what's the wise thing for me to do concerning in light of my past experiences. Remember we talked about that a few weeks ago. Like, I've did that. I've been there. I've had all that happen. I had all that take place. So in light of my past experiences, what's the wise thing for me to do? Because that didn't turn out so well. So now it's facing me again, or I'm facing it again. What is the wise thing for me to do? What's the wise thing for me to do in light of my current circumstances? We talked about, I just got married. Should I still hang out with the guys and leave my wife at home by herself? That kind of thing. What's the wise thing for me to do in light of my current circumstances? And in light of my future hopes and dreams, in other words, where do I want to be with my family, my marriage, and most importantly, where do I want to be like a year from now in my relationship with God? Do I want more intimacy with my Heavenly Father? Do I want to be closer to God? So in light of my future hopes and dreams, and I hope that's your hopes and dreams, to be closer to God. I hope that's like the dream you have instead of all the other stuff. So in light of my future hopes and dreams, what is the wise thing for me to do? And I think each time that we are presented with an invitation, a decision to choose, we need to ask this question. In light of past, current, or future, in light of, what's the wise thing for me to do? Today we're going to be talking, last week we talked about, and by the way, I meant to ask this at the beginning. Was anybody foolish this week? We talked about being a fool last week. Hey, yeah, somebody played the fool, didn't you? So, okay. So you returned to your vomit. Remember that? Did you try it in the diet, the whole diet thing? It really works, Y'all hearing it with me today? Okay, good. Because today I think is not that wasn't extremely important. We need to understand that, why we keep returning and what a fool looks like and all that. Instead of doing that, ask what's the wise thing to do. Today we're going to be talking about the crucial subject of time. Time. And I'm going to share some things with you. And as I was reading through some of this and jotting some of this down, I do not want to depress you. So if you'll just hang with me till the end of service, okay, because some of this might seem a little like, oh my gosh, I just want to go out here and play in the middle of the road. It may be that way. But concerning time, I want to share some things with you because this is the one thing I think we take for granted. I think we take time for granted. Now, if you're hunter's age, time is time. You're just free and you're living, and Christmas takes forever to get here, right? But when you're my age, we just had Christmas last week, and it's coming this next week, and time seems to be flying, right? If you're older, time is like, wow, what happened to January? You get it. Time's flying. And here's the deal, guys. Time is so crucial. Time is so important. And it's like our greatest asset. How are we using our time? So I want to share a few things with you. In fact, just so this will kind of sink in, Job 14:5, I was just reading this week as I was going through some scriptures, and this one just kind of, hit me in the eyes, or hit me between the eyes, I should say. Job 14:5 says, "You have decided the length of our lives. You know how many months we will live, and we are not given a minute longer." We're not given a minute longer. Did you know? And I'm going to use this. I might have to flip it over and over, but this is compliments to Miss Kellyanne. Can y'all see that? Because I couldn't see it from the back. Okay. Anyway, it's an hourglass if you wonder what I'm holding. Okay. But I want to use this time to see, when you were born, it was kind of like this. Job, as well as other Old Testament writers, believe that God gave you a certain amount of time. I heard it put in perspective one time with me. You got a certain amount of seconds that you're going to live. So this is your birth. And ever since you were birthed, time's been moving. Time's been moving. Just to put it into perspective for you. So God has decided, God says, He knows how many months we will live, and we're not given a minute longer. Now, if that don't make you want to stop and say, okay, what am I doing with my time? I don't know how else or how much clearer I can put that. Think about it. Your time's running out. Let me get real depressing here. Your time's running right now. You're fixing to spend about an hour right here learning about time this morning. What you go and do this week with your time is, I hope and pray that you leave here this morning like, I need to make some adjustments. I need to do some things differently. That's what I'm praying that comes across this morning. Because time is getting gone. you haven't got as much time now as you did when I turned this over. Some time has passed. And so we need to think about that. The point means this, or let me make this point, I should say. We can, and I wrote this down because I just thought it was pretty cool. We can overeat, we can overspend, overachieve, but we're not going to overlive. You know what I'm saying? We can overeat, overachieve, and overspend, but you're not going to overlive. You're going to live exactly as long as God said you got to live, and that's it. That's it. You can make new friends, you can go make money, but you can't make any more time. You can count your money, you can count your friends, but you can't count how much time you got left. I just want to put that into perspective for us this morning because, guys, the question I'm going to ask over and over today is, what are we doing with our time? What are we doing with our time? And this is not like a new sermon. You've heard this preached probably from 100 different angles. You know, what you're doing with your time, what are you doing with your life? Is it going to matter? Is it going to count? You know, all of us in here want our lives to matter, right? We want our lives to count. I hope to leave a legacy, not for the sake of leaving a legacy for Danny. I hope to leave a legacy for Christ. I hope to leave a legacy that I lived for Him and followed Him, and I hope that my time was spent wisely for Him. And I pray that that's all of our goals. So, in light of our time, we got to ask, what is the wise thing for me to do? So we're going to move forward. Now, here's the deal. Like I said, some of us, would we just admit, all of us, we've wasted some time in our life? Yeah, more than you would like. In fact, if you're my age, you've probably got a season or a couple seasons of life that you'll look back on and like, whoo, I wasted so much time. I wasted so much time. And you know what the sad thing is? You can't go back and retrieve it, can you? You can't go back. And in fact, you can't make more time and you can't retrieve the time that has been misspent. Isn't that a crock? That right there just made me really sad. But it also done this to me. Okay, so if I got a year left, or if I got 10 years left, if I got 1 year, 5 years, 7 years, makes me think, God, if you grant me that, then I want to be wise with what I do with it. So I want to give us 4 observations today. I want to give you 4 things, and it's 4 things we know about time, but we choose to ignore most of the time. So I want to give you 4 observations to take home with you. Number 1 is this. Investing small amounts of time over time is cumulative. Investing small amounts of time over time is cumulative. And here, I'm going to give you a couple examples. Okay, I started back on my diet regimen here this past week. The whole scripture about a dog returns to its vomit just got me started on that. So, anyway, I started back on that, and I've tripped and I failed. And you know how it is. I sinned a little this week, okay? Wasted some time. So anyway, I get to thinking, let me give you this example. Exercising. 30 minutes a day, 4 to 5 days a week, every month, every year, over and over, month after month, year after year. It is cumulative. It adds up. It turns into something good, right? You just ever walk by people who exercise all the time and say, I hate you. Really. But they spend time, they're like exercising, they're like on it. And it's not like they're doing this mega once a year workout. It's 30 minutes a day, 4 times, a week, 5 times a week, month after month, year after year, and it's cumulative. It adds up. Some of you guys, and I confess this, wish that you would have spent more supper time with your kids. 20 minutes, 30 minutes at the supper table, with your family, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. Is cumulative. It adds up. It turns into something good, right? And see, it's those small deposits, it's those small little increments of time that you invest that you're spending wisely. It's wise to exercise. Even for those of us who hate it, it's a smart thing to do. It keeps you healthy. Not that that's going to add time to your life, and I couldn't figure out how else to say this, But I would rather die healthy, natural causes, they say. I'd rather die healthy than to have 40 years of pain drugged behind me because I was stupid, And I've done a lot of stupid when it comes to eating. That's evident. So, little increments of time, spending time with your family, spending time with, with each other in relationships, and most importantly, your spiritual growth. What does your spiritual growth? Some people only eat once a week. They come here on a Sunday morning for a fast food trip. They'll get a little something that makes them feel pretty good. They don't touch nothing the rest of the week, and they're starving to death. Some people just come like once a year or listen or read the Bible or listen to someone preach or whatever once a year thinking, but it doesn't do anything for you. It's that time every single day, 30 minutes, I don't care, hour or whatever, per day, every day, each day. How am I investing my time? How am I using my time? What is the wise thing to do with my time? So, investing small amounts of time over time is cumulative, and especially in our spiritual walk. And it's so easy with exercise. And usually, if you miss just one exercise that don't really mean anything, it's not like you're out of whack. But doesn't it get easier the next day to miss the next one, and the next day to miss the next one? I just want to relate this to your time with God. It gets really easy to walk out of your house where you were having that morning time or whatever with God. It gets really easy to have that time, but if you miss a morning, the next morning gets easier. You've heard this before, right? It gets easier. And then you just continue to go, and that also can be cumulative. That adds up in a negative kind of way. So, all I'm here to encourage you with this morning, guys, is we need to take a look at our time and how we are spending it. Because time is getting gone. And a fat guy like me, y'all can't even tell I've been on a treadmill this week, can you? Right? Seriously. You can laugh, lie, or do whatever. Seriously. Okay? But here's the deal. Because one installment of running on a treadmill didn't do me, you're not going to, I ran 7.5 miles. That's a lie. I just lied to you. I ran 7, but you look like, wow, boy, that one workout did a lot. It doesn't, does it? Now, I bet you this, if I stay on it for the next 6.5 to 7 months, there'll be a difference. It's that time. Each day, every day, month after month, year after year, it's that time. And it has to happen every single day. What are we doing with it? Because isn't it easier to sit on the couch and eat, let's be honest, and watch something that I don't even remember what I watched? It had fast cars and guns in it. That's all I know. So, how are we spending our time? How are we putting those daily deposits? Number 2 is this. Neglect is cumulative as well. Neglect. Like I just said, it's easy to neglect. It's easy to walk away from exercise especially. And it doesn't take much to talk us into that, right? All you got to do is that you can be exercising for 6 months, and a buddy or friends or whatever or family calls and says, hey man, you want to run to the ice cream shop? Yeah, it's easy, to throw the gym stuff down and walk off, right? Neglect is also cumulative, because what happens? If you continue to neglect, that continues to add up in a bad way. And it's not a wise use of time. It's just not a wise use of time. Any of y'all look back? When I got out of high school, I was running about a mile or mile and a half a day when I got out of high school, when I graduated. And I continued to do a little running, after high school. And that's been like 5 years ago. But that was a lie too. Y'all didn't even call me out on it. Anyway, but I regret not investing that time. If I would have continued to run, I'm thinking about, what has my time been spent with in doing so? Anyway, I didn't make wise use of my time in that. So neglect can be a cumulative as well. And if we don't exercise, that shows up really, really well. If you neglect your marriage, if you neglect your relationships, if you neglect, people in your life, and most important, if you neglect God, guys, that's just not healthy. And we would all sit in church today, right, and say that we need to spend more time with God than anything else. Don't that sound good? I'm getting a bumper sticker printed up next week. I'll spend time with God more than anything else. The thing about it is, we would post it on our car probably, but we probably wouldn't live by it. And so all we've done, and my point I want to make, we can think about how we would like to spend time, or we can think about how we need to spend our time. But it's not cumulative, it's not beneficial, it doesn't add up unless we do it. It's really like that. The bumper sticker sounds good, but it's like just sticking it on the back of the car and, I can put a bumper sticker. I'm not a fat guy anymore. And it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work. You got to spend your time wisely. And that's just a fact, guys. That's just, the way it is. So neglect is, it's easy to neglect, and it costs us, man. Neglect costs. If you don't believe it, anybody got parents that's in bad health? Neglect costs. My dad neglected his health. He loved to work like 23 hours a day. He enjoyed it. Some of y'all go on vacations and enjoy fishing trips. My dad enjoyed working. Physical work. He enjoyed it, loved it, eat it like candy. And he a few years before passing away, said, "Where did it get me?" Now, we all have to work and support our families. I understand that. But I think about his time and how sad it is at the end of his time, realize I could have spent time more wisely. I remember my dad, and there's no doubt in my mind, my dad loved me. But my dad was always busy. My kids grew up with a busy dad. Because I just thought that's what you done. That's how you are a daddy. And I was always busy. I can stand here as a testimony this morning and tell you, I wasted a lot of time. And here's the sad thing. This is the really sad part. You can't go make that up. That's time spent. Now, I could tell Zeke, Ben, and Sam, we're going to start having 20-hour supper times. And see, they're already like, oh, man. They're already, I can say, okay, I'm going to have some 20-hour supper times to make up for the time that I lost. And that's ridiculous, right? That's crazy. One, they're not going to sit there that long. Two, they would really, really hate me. You cannot go make up for spent time. You deposit every day, guys, we get this nugget of time that God, because He is the giver of all things. God gives us time. And God says to us, use that wisely. Do not neglect that. And I think back, man, over 47 years. 47 years. And I trembled as I was just putting this together. I'm like, God, forgive me. Look at the time that I wasted. Look at the time that I have wasted. And your first thought is, what can I do to make that up? Parents with young children, don't waste time. Spend time with your children. Even if it causes you to live on less financially, spend time with your kids. Money's not that important. Status is not that important. Your children will remember the time you spent with them. Remember that. You can't go back and retrieve spent time. Once it's gone, it's gone. It's over. It's finished. And what can you say then? Well, I wished. Have you ever heard your parents say, if I had it to do over with again? You ever heard your parents say that? If I had it to do over again, I would. Or if I could turn back the time, I would do. Let that be a lesson to us. Man, I'm telling you, I think we need to view it like this. I think we need to view it that God slides I don't know. I tried to come up with the illustration. This might be goofy. But God slides that time block to us every single day. And He says, one more day I'm allowing you to live because you wouldn't breathe the next breath if it wasn't for God, okay? One more day I'm allowing you to live. This is the time I'm allotting you. And we pick up that box and we go on our way. We walk out the door and we go on our way. And there's things in our life, and I just wonder how well we have made the decision to say, God, I want to use this wisely according to your will, your way, and whatever happens, and that's talking with people, whatever God puts in front of me, I want to use this time wisely. We want it to count because, see, neglect does nothing but burn time. You can never retrieve time. And I know, guys, this is like really depressing. I don't know, maybe this is encouraging to y'all, but I got depressed out. Oh, God, I'm like, man, I'm 47. And for about 2 days, I was like really, really depressed because I can't do anything about that. And be careful because the enemy will tell you, you just wasted your... No, if you're still breathing, if you have 1 hour left, spend it for God. If you have 1 hour left, use that time wisely. So see, what I want to get to you, the point across to you today, guys, is you got to start now. I got to start now. I can't have 20-hour suppers with my children. That's not going to work. But I can sit down from time to time. I can sit down, and I plan to make the most of those moments. And for someone like me, time slips through my hands. I can get occupied. A bird can fly by, and I can be occupied 45 minutes seeing what he looks like. I mean, I just get distracted really, really easy. Think about this in the terms of health. We tend to think about so many times that it's so time-consuming to get on a treadmill. It's so time-consuming to work out an hour. In terms of health, well, what's it going to be like when your health does fail and you're distracted by all the pains and hurts and hospital visits? And what's it going to be like then? If I would have used my time wisely in what I ate and how I exercised and how I took care of myself, I can't say what will and what won't happen because there's people that's exercised for 40 years and they have bad health. I mean, it happens, okay? I'm not saying that this will eliminate all that, but what I'm saying is, isn't it smart that God gave us this life? Wouldn't it just be smart to take care of what God gave us? Wouldn't that just be smart? And I'm standing up here, I'm preaching this from a standpoint, I'm on the dumb side of things, okay? I'm not telling you that, look at me, I'm preaching from the side that's regretful that I wasted time. I wasted so much time. Number 3. Random has no cumulative value. Random things we opt for over the important things. Bet you this, and do this test for me. And I've got to use exercising again, it just makes sense to me. 30 minutes a day in my right hand, exercising 4 to 5 days a week, month after month, week after week, year after year, right here, is cumulative. It adds up to something good. Random things are in my left hand. I'll guarantee you the things that we neglected exercise for, we probably can't go back and remember what the random stuff was that we gave up for the wise thing to do. Concerning God, I want you to think about this right now. My biggest fear today is this right here, because it might be a little different. You're going to walk out of here today and, okay, that's a message on time. You'll walk out the door and say, yeah, God, I need to spend more time with you. I understand, I know. And you're not going to do it. My biggest fear for you is you're going to walk out the door and you're going to do exactly what you did last week, exactly what you did last year, exactly what you've been doing for year after year after year. My prayer is that God will shake us this morning because, man, as I'm thinking about, my time could end at any time. It could end at any time. And I'm going to stand before a holy God, and this goes to my mind on a regular. I'm going to stand before a holy God, and I am going to give an account for my time. I'm going to give an account for how I spent my time. And what am I going to say? God, what could I say? I wasted it. I wasted it. I wasted your gift, God, your gift of time. I could have known more about you. I could have known you more intimately. I could have served you more faithfully. I could have been a part of so many things that would have been cumulative and added up for your glory and for your honor. I could have been so much more, God, but I chose to waste time, your time. Because you do know this isn't your time, this is God's time. You wouldn't be here if God said you wasn't to be here. God put you here, and He gave us a certain amount of time. So random has no, I mean, when you add up random, random equals random. You can't, just put it all in a pile and like it adds up to nothing. Like, what did you do instead of exercising last year? Well, I slept in. What did all that sleeping in get you? Nothing. Nothing. I worked a few extra hours. I spent 150 hours a week on Facebook. What does that add up? Nothing. Nothing. And you look back and I'm like, okay, so that was time wasted. It's just like, and I hate to use financial illustrations, but it's like you taking your paycheck this week and just giving it away. It's spent, right? Because you ain't getting it back. You ain't getting it back. Your family goes hungry because now you can't buy groceries. And I know that might be a sorry illustration, but time's just like that. You can't give back to your family what you've already spent. I had 16, 18, 19, sometimes the months of April, May, June, and July, there were nights I would only sleep 2 hours a night and I'd work the rest. Sleep a lot of nights on the seat of a pickup truck. Sleep just 2 hours a night because I was going to make a better life for my family. And I wasted hours. I missed birthday parties. Wasted hours and hours. And you know the crock of it is? I'm spending it, man. I'm spending it like nobody's business. Spending it like crazy. And I cannot go back and retrieve that time. God's been gracious. As far as I know, my boys still kind of sort of like me. That's a good thing. They still let me hang out with them. But I'm telling you, I regret the missed time. It's spent. It's gone. It's finished. It's done. You don't retrieve it. You sleep in. My grandma used to have a saying, you sleep in 20 hours, you sleep in your life away. There's so much more to be doing. I promise you, God meant for you to get rest, absolutely, but not 24 hours a day. You just spend time. What are you doing with your time? Spend it wisely. Random stuff is just going to add up to be random stuff, and it's not going to be amount to anything. Number 4. Last one. In areas that matter most, you can't make up for spent time. Like I said a while ago, you can't make up for the time that you have already spent. And you sitting right here today, and I hope one of the thoughts that pops in your mind, I hope that you're doing a survey or an evaluation of like, yep, I can look back on that season of my life, and I spent it. I do not want you to get depressed over that because you're still breathing, okay? There's still hope. True, we're going to give an account for that. God's going to ask me and look at me and say, so Danny, from age 21, when you and Cindy got married, from age 21 to age 45, give me an account. I'm holding you accountable for all that. What can I say? I wasted it. I wasted it. Don't get me wrong, there was moments that I was there and, those are times I look back on, that's kind of like what I hold on to, because there was moments, but I wasted it. Man, I wasted time. And it's easy to get depressed over that, but then I get to thinking, so God, you still got me breathing and alive, so if nothing else, can I encourage my boys not to live this way? Can I encourage my boys to spend time with their families and spend time with their relationships with people? God, can I encourage my boys to spend time? God, can I encourage my flock to be wise with their time? Because, see, I don't know how long that lasted, but it's gone, and it'll probably be gone when I finish up. It's just like this hourglass. It's running. This is a little harder for young people to get into focus, but I'll guarantee you, if you're 45 years old, you're thinking about, I'm like half over. Just a few years, I'll be 50. That's like, what, a half a century? What's the likelihood of me making, and I'm not trying to depress anybody that's 50, okay, because I'm right there. I probably ain't going to make it a second century. So what is my time use going to look like from here this point forward? You know, because time spent is time spent. And I want to know that it's being invested wisely, because once it's gone, it's gone. And we need to do that in our relationships, guys. Oh gosh, we need to do it in our marriages, our relationships. I don't know, and sometimes I want to just get a meeting together with all the young husbands sometimes, and I just want to say to them, guys, whatever you do, love your wife, love your children, teach them the Word, embrace God. Man, just spend time. Even if you got to live in a cardboard box, make it first and foremost, man. Love your family. Spend time with your family. Spend time in the Word of God. Spend time praying. Spend time seeking after God. Spend time glorifying God. Spend time living for God. And not that the ladies didn't need to hear that, but men, you're the shepherds of your home. God has placed you in the position to shepherd your family. Your wife. Man, my wife right now, we're working through more issues at 20, soon be 26 years of marriage. We're still trying to, I take her on a date and it's like having a new girl. Which is a good thing. I mean, that's great. But how much time did I waste? I'm thinking. I know my wife, but I could know her so much better. It's crazy. I mean, really, I would rather spend time doing that than with my family. My time. And I don't get no more of it. So once it's spent, it's spent. Ephesians 5:15. What do you think God would say about time? He's speaking through Paul here, and this, and we talked about this, I think, the first week we were actually asking this question. But here's what God says through Paul about time. He says, look carefully then how you walk. Translation, look carefully then how you live. How many of y'all, and you don't have to raise your hand, how many of y'all have even been asking the question, what's the wise thing for me to do? I would venture to say y'all left out here and said, that was a pretty good question. How many of you have actually asked it in your decision making over the last couple of weeks? See, I can stand up here and give you stuff all day long. You can read your Bible and get stuff all day long. But if you don't use it, Paul says this, look carefully, examine. What's some words that means careful? You examine intensely, look hard, search, pay attention. Look carefully then how you walk. Not as unwise, but as wise. Because the unwise is like this. The unwise is going to say, I got plenty of time. Teenagers, 21-year-olds, I got plenty of time. It don't register. When I was 21 years old, time was time, man. I was going to live forever. You're not. You're not. And here's the advantage you have if you're 21 and below. Here's the advantage you have, and we talked about this last week. You can be young, you can grow wise, and you can live wise. Any parents in here got teenagers that you wished you would have known to ask the question, what's the wise thing to do before your kids got to be teenagers? Whew, I do. Paul says, look carefully then how you walk. Not as unwise, but as wise. Look at it. Pay attention. Take God's instruction and apply it. Verse 16. Making the best use of the time. Making the best use of the time. Why would God say that through Paul? Because He meant it. Because He knows that we're going to waste time. And He gives us instruction right here. God spoke through Paul, and Paul said, hey guys, you're time wasters. You're going to waste time. It's what we do. But I'm telling you, walk wisely. Be careful how you spend your time. Making the best use of the time. Just like I said earlier, God gives us that time block every single day. If you wake up tomorrow morning, that's not just another day for you. You wake up tomorrow morning, God has granted you that day. God has granted you that day. That's God's time, not yours. It's God's time. And I hope that'll make a difference. If you pick up God's box of time, would you handle that differently than your box of time? Seriously, do you want to go before God and say, I have a blast wasting your time? Would we want to say that to God? No, we wouldn't want to say that to God. But we do. We do. Man, I'm telling you, I've watched so many hours of television, and I can quote shows. Me and my boys were sat around, and we can quote stuff from movies. And I could instantly say, well, quote James 5:3, and we can't. Well, let me get my Bible. And I know that's old school. I know that sounds like, oh, gosh, we just went back 100 years. But it's true, isn't it? You're going to know what you spend time with. You're going to be able to speak, teach, live what you spend time with. I could do a perfect imitation of Andy Griffith, Barney Fife, or Floyd. I've studied them. I've watched so many episodes. If you turn one on, I can quote the whole episode. Look, God, I can talk in Andy Griffith. I can speak the whole... Is that impressive or what? And I ain't calling it a bad show. I still watch it. But every time I watch it now, it's like, I'm wasting time. And I'm not saying, this is getting radical. I got to go home and throw my TV away. I ain't saying that, but I tell you what, if we cut it off, we'd all be better off. And you can disagree or with that or whatever, but I'll tell you what, if we picked this up more times than we picked up a remote control, our life would be better. How lazy are you? How lazy am I? Man, I know, but sometimes I know it's because this ain't as fun, right? And ultimately, this ain't as important. Ain't y'all glad y'all came to church today? But it's true, ain't it? And this is what's eating at me and gnawing on me is like, man, I just sat down and just wasted it. And I know it's going to be a rough journey here on because now I'm thinking. I'm not saying don't sit down and relax. I'm not saying that at all, but we know when we're wasting time, right? Any procrastinators in here? See? Yeah. Thank y'all for being truthful. Because we like to work under pressure, right? We love the pressure. My wife will say, you need to be getting... I'll get it. You need to get this done. We got people coming over in 15 minutes. I can get it done in 10. And you wait. And you procrastinate. I'm wasting time. And when we talk spiritually, guys, how much time have you wasted concerning God? Some of you are still... some of you are struggling with a decision about God. And you're like, you read just enough to stir you up. You read just enough to get you, and you laid this down. And now you're struggling, and now you're like, well, I want to go to heaven, and I want to know God, and you won't pick this back up. You waste time wondering what you should do. I tell you what you should do. You should pick this back up and choose to love Him or hate Him. You should pick this back up and see what God's saying to you. You should pick this back up and spend time with this. We can't make righteous decisions if we are not seeking righteous guidance. You can't do it. And we don't spend near enough time. I think we'd all have to say yes on this, that we neglect this. And it's being cumulative in our life. Neglect is adding up. We're spending. I want you to go home today and think about what we spend on. In fact, I want to give you this little test to go home and do. And I even thought about getting y'all to jot your phone numbers down for me today so I could call you at random. And then I thought I'd just get y'all to write your address down so I can just show up at your house randomly. I want you to do a test. If you're too lazy to do it for 1 week, my challenge is 1 week. If you're too lazy to do it for 1 week, then do it for 1 day. Do it for 1 day. I want you to clock in your life. Now, I'm going to set work to the side because I know that's an excuse. You're going to use that, okay? We're all going to use it. Well, I got to work 10 hours. Okay, well, let's set that 10 hours aside. God knows you got to provide for your family. This is the time outside of work. That makes sense? Time outside of work. Would you be willing to go on a journey with me in documenting your time this week? And don't be ashamed. I'm seriously. If you want to go home and watch 20 hours of movie, do it boldly and proud, okay? Do it boldly and proud. But at least do this. Take your ink pen and take your little notepad and sit down and take inventory of the television you watched this week. Look at your clock when you go to bed. Document the hours that you sleep. Okay? Because you need sleep. You need rest. God ain't mad at you for sleeping, okay? Document Facebook time. Document computer time. Document Bible time. How much time you spend with God. And you're not, I'm serious. I don't want you to bring this back, and I'm not coming to your house. I promise, okay? No, you ain't got to bring a report next week, okay? I want you to look at it. I want you to look at it. But before you start documenting, I want you to write something at the top of the sheet. It's not my time. It's God's time. And underneath that, how am I spending God's time? And be proud. Seriously. I'm not trying to make you feel bad or nothing. Take what you find out at the end of that 1 day, or take what you find out at the end of that week, and I want you to look at it and evaluate it and ask yourself this question. Is how I spent my week, was it wise? How I spent my week, was it wise? Was that the wise thing to do with my time? I mean, just ask that question. And I'm going to let God take it from there. I can't monitor you. Shoot, I can't even monitor me. I'm having a tough time writing this stuff down myself. But do you, seriously guys, is God the most important thing in your life? And we would have to honestly sit here this morning, and if we did an evaluation of our time spent, we would probably have to say, the majority, if not all of us, would have to say, if we're talking in terms of time, no, He's not. I care more about me than I care about Him. I love the things of this world and this culture more than I love Him. And that's just an honest evaluation of how we're living our life. You know, somebody said one time, if you want to find out what means the most to you, follow your checkbook trail. Whatever you spend the most on, that's what means the most. You know, I like to just say this. If you'll evaluate time, what you're spending the most time with and spending the most time doing, you love that. And guys, the things I'm talking about, watching a movie with your family, that's not a bad thing. Doing things like that's not a bad thing. Going, just doing activities, that's not bad stuff. All I'm saying is, what has the majority of your time? What has the majority of your time? And if this God is the God He says He is, and I believe He is, and we love this God like we say that we love this God, then why aren't we spending time with Him? Because here's a lot of times where our time is spent with God, and be honest. We go to this Word to find answers to fix our problems. We go here to fix problems. We rarely, most of the time, go here just to be with Him. Just to love Him. To commune. To sit with Him. To enjoy Him. To love Him. And this is how I know that. Because most people do it like a mega workout. They'll do God just like a mega workout. You know, you've seen it. They get guilty feeling about their little tummy. And they'll go to a gym and they'll get on every machine, do it twice as long, and their body the next morning is like, sends them a message like, you're an idiot. We do that with God. I can tell you when you'll start reading your Bible more, when tragedy strikes. I can tell you when you go to the doctor and he says you have cancer, you'll get the word then. You'll start spending time with him then. When a foreclosure notice gets served, you'll start praying then. You'll start reading then. When something's happened with your child and you don't know what's going on, you'll start reading then. Isn't that sad? Isn't that sad? God, we don't want you or need you. We don't want to spend no time with you until we got something happen in our life that we need you to fix. Are we spending our time wisely? Are we spending our time wisely? God wants to help you through things. In fact, God is so gracious, He does help you through things. You know, in fact, if we were to back up and look at the grace of God, we'd fall flat on our face because of the things He does, and we don't even recognize them. We don't even recognize them. He's a gracious God, but I'm telling you, if we're going to love God, does He not deserve our time? Is He worthy of our time? Or have we done got so far above that we can just kind of take it in little spits and spatters and do a mega Bible reading? You know, we got a tragedy in my life, I'm going to read the whole New Testament tonight. One installment of reading this Bible does you absolutely no good. Same as one installment of exercise does you no good. It's little, small pieces of time over time, day after day, month after month, that makes the biggest difference. You don't eat once a year, do you? I eat every day, 3 or 4 times a day, because I'm hungry. Here's one of my prayers, guys. I've thought about the physical hunger, and every time I'm physically hungry, I make it a point. I'll drive somewhere to get food. And yet here I am spiritually starving to death, and the plate sitting right here. And I'm trying to think, well, you know, maybe. Pick it up. Pick it up. Spend time with God. Guys, I hope this made sense, because when I came here this morning, one, it's a subject that we know. We all know we waste time. We'd have to confess that. All of us in here, we waste time. 2, it's something that we don't like to talk about because we like the stuff we spend time doing rather than spending time with God. We like the stuff we do. And the stuff we do is not necessarily bad or evil or none of that. But I want to tell you what, I started me an evaluation sheet, and I'm a pastor. I started me an evaluation sheet on my life, and I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed. I counted the times that, you know, I'm looking up Christian videos. That's a good thing, man. I mean, I love watching things like, well, be careful, but solid stuff. I'll read a newsletter from a pastor in a heartbeat. I'll read his, what they call them, blogs. I'm not computer savvy, so anyway. A blog to me is like a bog or mess, but anyway. I'll read things like that. And I get to thinking, I spend more time in that. And there's nothing wrong with reading an article. It's just time. People go out and buy books. And here's the thing. They go out and buy books about God. This man says this about God, and he's dead on it. This book says this, and this is encouraged. Here's the book. This is the book. If you want to spend time wisely and spend it with God, read this one. Read this one. All I want to get you to see, guys, is look at what you're doing with your time. And I'll promise you this. Now, I am going to ask you, by the way. I'm not coming to your house, and I'm not calling you. But I am going to ask some of you, how'd your evaluation go this week? And if you don't do it, would you please do this? Don't tell me you're working on it, because that's just like saying, no, you didn't. Okay? Just don't tell me you're working on it. Seriously. Shoot it straight from the hip. I didn't want to do it, and I didn't do it. Shut up and leave me alone. I'd rather you tell me that than to tell me you thought about working on it or trying to work on it. But if you do work on it, I want to know if you can share some benefits of it. Or like, wow, I was off course. Wow, I waste time. Because we can pray for each other then. Because I'm telling you guys, we're going to meet God. We're going to meet God. We're going to stand face to face with God. And there's multitudes of things that we're going to be held accountable for. Our time, how we spent our time, how we spent His time. We're going to give an account. Spend your time wisely. Wisely. Wisdom's right here. In fact, He tells us to go and ask for wisdom. Wisdom's right here. Because, man, I'm telling you, I don't know, it just bothers me to think that we can go on living life considering it our time to do with what we want to do with it and ignoring this God. Spend time wisely.